सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्
वन्दे
Guru-Parampara.
Dṛg-Dṛśya-Viveka. What is this text? Just look at all the literature that we have. Okay, just mute y'all and then. So just look at all the spiritual literature that we have. We know there are three primary source books which give us the knowledge of the Atma. And these source books are what? Prasthana-trayam. Prasthana meaning the source or the method. Prasthana-trayam meaning three methods of revealing nature of the Atma. The first one is Shruti-Prasthanam, meaning the Vedas. The second one is Smriti-Prasthanam, meaning Bhagavad Gita. And the third one is called Nyaya-Prasthanam, meaning the Brahma Sutras. Okay. Now, many people may not have the time or the patience to access the Prasthana-trayam, the three original texts. And they may not have a proper teacher also. So they may not be able to study them properly. Therefore, the Acharyas have condensed all this information of the Prasthana-trayam into something called the Prakaranam. So Prakarana Grantha. Prakaranam means basically a simplified version of the Prasthana-trayam, of the entire teaching of the Vedas presented in a very simple treatise form. This is called Prakarana Grantha. So one Prakarana Grantha we have all studied, Tattva Bodha. So the Prakarana Granthas can be classified also into two types. One is a holistic form of Prakaranam, meaning that all the aspects of the Vedantic teaching are presented there. By all aspects, what are the aspects? In any Vedantic study, there are only 6 aspects. What are they? Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, Bandhaha, Mokshaha, and Sadhanani. Jiva meaning us, the individual. Jagat meaning the world. Ishvara meaning the Lord, the Creator, the Destroyer. Bandhaha meaning bondage, which includes a study of the causes of the bondage. Then there is moksha, liberation, which is the sadhyam, the purpose of the study. And then you have the various sadhanani, or say various sadhana, the means by which the jiva can travel from bondage to liberation. So just like Tattva Bodha is a complete Prakaranam, including all these 6 aspects, we have other Prakarana Grantham also, like Viveka Chudamani, Vedanta Sara, and such things. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Sara. So these are all texts which are giving you the complete 6 aspects. But there is another type of Prakarana Grantha also. And in these Granthas, all the 6 aspects are not picked up, but only a few of them for a particular aspect of the teaching is taken up and discussed very comprehensively. Like you will find that in some Prakarana Granthas, they will concentrate only on the study of the Jiva. And there won't be much discussion about Ishvara or Shrishti or creation. And then you have a Grantha like say Vakya Vritti, where Jiva, Ishvara, etc. topics are not touched, but only the Mahavakya Vichara is highlighted. Then there are some texts where sadhanas like Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, etc. are not talked about. So this is the second group of Prakarana Granthas. Both Granthas are important because in the beginning stages, one should be able to get an overview of the entire teaching. And when one receives this overview, you can have several doubts. And then the second group of Prakarana Granthas will be referred to clarify those doubts. So thus, in our tradition, both types of Prakarana Granthas are present. Now, as I said, Tattvabodha, Viveka Chudamani are under the first type where holistic view is taken. And Vakyavritti, for example, the second type. This text that we are now studying, Dṛg-Dṛśya-Viveka, that is also the second type. It doesn't take into account all the 6 aspects, but it takes into account the last 4, Jiva, Bandha, Moksha, and Sadhana. So the Jiva is talked about, the bondage and the cause of bondage is talked about, Moksha is talked about, and the sadhana required to get to that goal is talked about. So it's a fairly small grantha consisting of some 46 verses. Not much is known about who is the author. In fact, there is a fair amount of dispute or divergence in views about who the author is. Some people say that Adi Shankaracharya is the author. Others say that another very renowned Acharya called Vidyaranya is the author. And a third group of people say that it is neither Shankara nor Vidyaranya, but it is Bharati Tirtha who is the author. Bharati Tirtha was one of the Shankaracharyas of the Sringeri Mutt in the 14th century or something, and he is supposed to be Vidyaranya's guru. And if you look at the style, in fact, Vidyaranya's most famous work is a text called Panchadashi. And the style of this Dṛg-Dṛśya-Viveka is similar to Panchadashi. So we can take it that the author is Vidyaranya. Okay. Some people say that Panchadashi was not written by Vidyaranya alone, but it's a combined effort of Vidyaranya and Bharati Tirtha. So that it's open, like we can take this Dṛg-Dṛśya-Viveka as a effort only of Vidyaranya, or an effort of Vidyaranya and Bharati Tirtha, or Bharati Tirtha alone. Okay, so there is no real clarity, but for the purpose of our study, I think if we take it as Vidyaranya, it is sufficient. So this text is going to be talking about Vidyaranya. So the Viveka in the text, it means discrimination, resolving any confusion in thinking and getting clarity. This is called discrimination. What is the topic? Dṛk. Dṛk is an observer, experiencer. And Drishyam is the observed or the experienced. Now, why do we need sorting? We need sorting when there is a mixing up, when clarity is not there. Okay, so this is the background with which we will begin the text. I'm unmuting you. We will first chat. I have put the first 20 verses of the text in the group. It will take me some more time to put all the other verses together, but 20 verses will take some time. Okay. So let us chant the first verse. Rupam Drishyam Lochanam Dṛk.
Rupam Drishyam Lochanam Dṛk.
Tadrishyam Dṛktu Manasam.
Drishyam Dṛktu Manasam.
Rupam Drishyam Lochanam Dṛk. Tadrishyam Dṛktu Manasam.
Rupam Drishyam Lochanam Dṛk.
Dṛśyādhivrittaya Sakshi.
Dṛśyādhivrittaya Sakshi.
Dṛk eva na tu drishyate.
Dṛk eva na tu drishyate.
Okay, so my first question is, which is the chanda of this text?
Anushtup.
Anushtup. Why so?
Eight,
Because
eight.
it has
Eight
got eight syllables, 4 quarters. There are 4 quarters in any Anushtup. So it is Anushtup. Okay. Now look at the words. Rupam, Drishyam. Okay. What is Rupam? Rupam is form.
Sir, can you
And
mute?
yeah, I'll do that. Once. So what is Rupam? No, again, it's not muted. All right. So Rupam is form. Drishyam is that which is being seen. So if I am looking at my phone, the phone is the Drishyam for me, the object that is being seen. Now he's saying Rupam. Rupam is the form and that is the object. So this form of the phone is the object which is being seen. That is the first statement. When there is some object being seen, then he says Lochanam Dṛg. The seer, Dṛg, is the eyes. Lochanam means eyes. So Rupam Drishyam Lochanam Dṛg. For any object which is being seen, so Rupam means the form which is the object. Any object being seen, that becomes the object, the scene. And the seer becomes the eyes, Lochanam. Dṛg, Lochanam. That is the first statement. Okay. Then Tad Drishyam. Now this Tad now refers to Lochanam. So you have to supply here Tad Lochanam Dṛg. That eyes, Tad Lochanam Drishyam. You have to supply over here. Tad Drishyam, that Tad is equivalent to Lochanam, and therefore Tad Lochanam Drishyam. When that eyes become the object, what is the seer? Dṛg to Manasam. The mind becomes the seer. So it's talking in terms of two things always. One is what is being seen, and one is the seer. So there are always, is always being talked about a pair. So he's starting from the external world, which is objects, and he says, when you are looking at the object, at the world is the object, and the eyes are the subject. So seer is the eyes, the seen is the object. Now he takes one step back and he says, Tad Lochanam Drishyam. When the eyes become the object, Dṛg to Manasam. The mind becomes the seer. And what is this mind? He says, Drishya Dhi Vrittaya. So Dhi is the mind. Vritti is the function of the mind, which is thoughts. Vritti literally means function. And Dhi Vrittaya means function of the mind. What is the function of the mind? Thoughts only. And because it is used in that sense, Vritti generally is taken to mean thoughts. So Drishya Dhi Vrittaya. He says all the functions of the mind. Dhi Vrittaya. What are they? Drishyam only. They are all objects of experience. So look at the pairs. First you've got the object in the world and the eyes. That's one pair. Then you've got eyes and they've got a mind. That is one pair. Now when you say that Dhi Vrittaya, Drishyam, Drishya Dhi Vrittaya. So you're saying that the thoughts of the mind become the Drishyam, the object of experience. And what then is the seer? What is the subject? So he supplies Sakshi Dṛg Eva. The Sakshi, the original consciousness, is the seer. So look at these pairs. Seen, seer. External world, form, object, eyes. Then eyes, mind. Then mind and its thoughts, and OC, the original consciousness. And he says, Natu Drishyate. This Sakshi, however, tu na Drishyate. But, tu is but, tu na Drishyate. This Sakshi, however, cannot be seen. This seer cannot be seen because it is the absolute observer. It is you yourself. And how can you see yourself? So you cannot see the Sakshi because you are the Sakshi. And therefore, Sakshi cannot be experienced or converted into an object of experience. This is called the Sankshepa Sloka, introductory summary sloka of this particular verse. Okay, so first is Sankshepa Sloka, then there are 4 slokas which are Vyakhyanam, a brief commentary on the Sutra Sloka, the first one. Before going on to that, let me just unmute you all to figure out if any questions are there.
Sir, could you explain the second line again, please? All the functions of the mind.
Dṛg-Dṛśya-Viveka. Okay, so Dhi is the mind. Vritti means thoughts. So you can take it as Dhi Vritti, you can take it as thoughts in the mind. So you are saying, first you are saying that there is an object in the world and therefore the subject is the eyes. Then if you consider the eyes as the object, then the mind becomes the subject. And if you consider the mind, which are the thoughts, as the object, then the Sakshi Drik Eva, the Sakshi becomes indeed the seer.
Sorry, sir, your voice went away again in between. I'm sorry. From the when you said the thought in the mind.
Yeah, so if you are taking the thoughts in the mind as the object, then the Sakshi, the original consciousness, becomes the Drik, the seer. So there are pairs over here. Object, eyes, mind, mind and OC, mind and Sakshi. There are 3 pairs. And he qualifies here saying that Drik eva natu drishyate. That Drik, that Sakshi consciousness does not have a further seer, which means that there is no more subject for the Sakshi. It is the ultimate subject. That Sakshi, it is not possible to convert into an object. And why?
So that
because
seer
that
is
Sakshi
the
is you.
OC.
Yeah, because it is you. The OC is you, and therefore you can't convert that anymore. This is the base, the Sutra Sloka, which is expanded now. Are you able to see why we are saying this? What is this being said for? What is the purpose of introducing this? Anybody? There is another name for this kind of reasoning. What is that? Come on, guys. You're all now, very advanced fellows. No? Okay. It's called Neti Neti.
Oh, nothing.
I was thinking about it.
You are negating.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, that there is no subject, there is no object.
No. First you negate the world. You say that is not me, the eyes is me. Then you negate the eyes and say that is not me, the mind is me. Then you negate the mind and say the mind is not me, and the seer of the mind, the consciousness, that is me. That's how it's called a neti neti. Okay. So we'll look at verse number 2, which is a expansion on this now. Neela pita sthula sukshma.
Neela pita sthula sukshma.
Hrisva dhirdhadi bhedataha.
Hrisva dhirdhadi bhedataha.
Nana vidhani rupani.
Nana vidhani rupani.
Pasye lochanam ekadha.
Pasye lochanam ekadha.
Okay, so I will just again move on. Now, look at the words. Neela. Neela is blue. So colors are being mentioned. Neela is blue. Pita is yellow. Then sthulam. Sthulam is gross. Sukshmam is subtle. So you can take that gross as being big and sukshmam as being small also. Okay, it can be taken in both the meanings. Gross and subtle or big and small. Hrisva, short. Dṛg, long. Adi, etc. Bhedataha, many. Okay. So what is he describing now? You have to connect it to the last verse. What is he describing?
Perception of the eyes, perceiving different objects.
Anybody else wants to try? What is being described? Take the last verse and then say. More specifically, from the verse.
Different forms.
Yeah. So,
The mind.
The same.
Rupam is
Same.
being described.
Rupam.
Okay, Rupam is the forms. And he says, or you can say Drishyam. Drishyam is being described. The object with forms is being described. And he says these objects have Nana Vidhani Rupani. Many and varied Rupani. Many and varied forms. Like blue, yellow, and then they are gross, they are small, they are big, they are small, they are short, they are long, etc. Bhedataha. These are the many changes, differences in the forms. However, Lochanam ekadha pashyet. The Lochanam, the eyes, remains the same. Okay. So he is saying here, the eye is single, but it sees many forms. Okay. The seer is one, but the seen are many. So ekada remains the same. Eka rupena vartama san. It remains. The seer is the first seer, but he remains one, while the forms are many and varied. Now, in you're already, in the final verses of the Gita. So now, what is he talking about? What is the connection here? What is one and what is many?
Padis are many.
Padis are many.
Brahman is one.
Brahman is one. So consciousness is one and the upadhis are many. Okay. Basically, this verse means only that. So you can see the connection between what we have studied so far in many, many verses is being brought out, very succinctly in a little verse. Okay, so we're talking about the jiva and what actually is the connection between the jiva and Ishvara. Okay, now we look at verse number 3. Andhyamandhya patutveshu
Andhyamandhya patutveshu
netra dharmeshu chaikada
Netra dharmeshu
chaikada
sankalpayen manashrotra
Sankalpayen manashrotra
Tvagado yogyatamidam.
Tvagado
yogyamidam.
Okay, now let me just mute you people again. So he's saying that with regard, okay, look at the words first. Andhyam. Andhyam means blindness. Okay, andhasya bhava. Andhyam. So total non-perception is referred to as andhyam. Then there is another word, mandhyam. So Mandhyam is a person who is able to see partially only. Okay, so he's talking about the state of total blindness and of partial blindness. So there is total non-perception and partial perception. And patutvam. Patutvam is the full function. That is fully functioning eyes. So andhyam, mandhyam, patutvam. There are these three aspects of the eyes. What are they? Netra dharmeshu. So here remember, netra is the eyes. Dharma here is the conditions of the eye. So netra dharma means conditions of the eye. So what are the netra dharma he's talking about? He says andhyam, mandhyam and patutvam. The function of the eye is divided into three: total blindness, partial blindness, and fully clear eyes. So andhyam, mandhyam, patutvam. Now tell me, from the previous verse, if these three are the conditions of the eye, what is going to remain one?
Mind.
The mind will remain one. Okay? Ekada manaha. So mind remains one, while the object of the mind, the eyes, are of different functions. You're able to see what kind of analysis he's doing. In every pair, he takes the subject as one and he tries to show that the objects are in many forms, each of those pairs. So here the subject is the manaha, the mind. The object is the eyes, and therefore netra dharmeshu andhyam, mandhyam, patutvam. Multiple forms of conditions are there in the eye. However, mind is only one, and sankalpayena is able to recognize these three states. The mind remaining one, sankalpayena, is capable of recognizing those three states. Okay. Then shrotra tvagadav yogyatamidam. Even when the conditions of the eye are many, the mind remains the same, unchanged. So these conditions are variable with reference to the sense organs, to the eyes, but do not belong to the mind. And here shrotra tvag adav. He's saying that same mind which was described as having the eye as the object can also have shrotra as the object, tvag as the object. So each of the sense organs can be changed to object, but the mind remains the same. You're getting what he's saying? Drishyam anekam Dṛg-Eka. So Dṛg here is the mind. In the first, he took mind and eyes, and then he said eyes have different functions. So the same mind recognizes different states in the eyes. And then he says, not only that, the same mind recognizes different sense organs also. Same mind is needed for the eye to function. Same mind is needed for shrotra, the ears, to function. The same mind is needed for the touch to function. And of course, you're not given here, but you'll have to say, you'll have to add over there your nose also and the tongue also. Okay, both have to be added. And therefore, he says the last two words, yogyatam idam. Idam meaning this same law. Which law? Drishyam anekam Dṛg-Eka. That the objects are many, but the subject is only one. This law can be extended to yogyatam idam, the other sense organs also. Okay, so let us see if you have any questions. It's one of those very succinct texts, so you have to appreciate the beauty of it. And if you have to understand this, you have to remember everything that you have learnt in Vedanta so far. No questions?
Sir, explain the word yogyatam.
Yogyatam is is he saying the same manner in which we have dealt with the eyes, in the same manner, Yogyatam, it can be extended to the other sense organs also. The other sense organ, Indriyani has to be supplied over there. Yogyatam in this is also applicable to, equally applicable to. Yogyam actually means capable, right? You are yogya. You are yogya for something, capable. So one aspect of this capable thing is applicable. So that other sense organs and the mind, that relation is also capable of being analyzed in the same manner. That's what it means.
Where all sense organs are the object and the
Yes.
mind is the subject.
And the mind is the subject. So if each of that, if you take sense organs as a group, then the sense organs are multiple and the mind is one. If you take one sense organ, that sense organ is in multiple states. And that mind is capable of recognizing those multiple states. That is why he added that business about partial vision and complete blindness. That same logic can be applied to each of the sense organs. Proper functioning, inadequate functioning, and no function. So that he's saying that whatever it is always the object which is in multiple vision and the subject is always one.
Here the subject is reference to the mind.
In this case, subject is reference to the mind. It's always a pair. The first pair was the external world and the eyes. Second pair was eyes and the mind. So we are discussing the second pair. The third pair is the mind as the object and Sakshi as the subject, which is verse number 4, which we will not do today. So if there's anything we can discuss, because it's a completely different aspect that I'm presenting to you. So, you need to look at it from that point of view. This is a different sort of Prakarana Grantha. Its beauty will be appreciated once you're halfway through it.
Sir, so you
So
mean
what
to
is
say,
the purpose?
sorry,
Go ahead.
just one small question, sir. So
Yeah.
the approach towards the Atma Jnanam
Mhm.
of this text is what you're saying is different to the rest that we've done till now.
You are introducing the subject of Neti Neti, which we didn't do very clearly anywhere else. Then therefore, during the text, you will find what is
today your
Jiva.
voice is
No,
missing.
that's because I'm in Madurai. I mean, the Wi-Fi is not strong enough. So that's why no videos on. But what you miss, I hope that you will be able to, understand the recording. Recording should be clear according to me. How was the recording the previous one, last week's one?
From my side, the sound is perfect.
Okay. Thank you, Mahalakshmi.
So what is the purpose of all these comparisons? I didn't get that.
The
That's why I'm a
purpose
little
is very
confused.
simple, that when you are told that you are Brahman, that is the knowledge which you require to get. But that knowledge to assimilate requires a continuous exposure. It's like making pickle, If you cut the lime and put it in the spice and take it out immediately, that's not much of a pickle you're going to get, right? You need to leave that lime in the pickle for an extended period of time. Then only it absorbs.
Oh,
Yeah, till where did you all hear?
the pickle example where we heard.
So pickle, if you put the lime in the sauce or the spice and take it out immediately, you don't have much of a pickle. There's hardly any taste. If you want it to be really good, you have to keep it there for a week or so, and it absorbs it slowly. So knowledge is the same. Just an exposure of a year or so is not going to do. You have to listen continuously to this teaching in various forms. That is why there are so many granthas. The same teaching is conveyed in different words, different examples. The purpose is to fix the knowledge in your mind without any doubt.
And just we are trying to understand it from different angles, so
The
that
same,
the
it's nothing
assimilation
new.
becomes
The
better.
same thing is being explained to you in different words, in different examples. That is all. There is nothing here which is different from what has come in the Gita. Excepting that you are presenting it here as a seer and seen. Gita also we had that, but we had Atma, Anatma. Okay, so with that, let's call it a day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your patience. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat
Purnamadav Purnamidam
Purnasya Purnamacharya
Purnamacharya
Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Shanti Shanti.
Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Have a great
Om
day,
Namah
guys.
Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Thank you, sir.
Bye bye.
Thank you.